OpenAI unveiled several significant updates to its AI offerings. This was both an individual announcement of a specific update we're going to talk about, and also a bunch of announcements that came during their recent DevDay. So, first up, before DevDay, they introduced something called Canvas, which is a new interface for ChatGPT that is designed for more complex writing and coding projects. And Canvas allows users to collaborate with AI in a separate window, basically side by side, both prompting it and seeing the outputs during kind of inline feedback and targeted editing projects when you're doing things like writing or coding. So this kind of enhances ChatGPT's ability to assist with tasks that require quick multiple revisions and contextual understanding. Now, second, at DevDay, and the rest of these updates come from DevDay as well, the company launched the real-time API in public beta. So this API enables developers to integrate fast speech-to-speech functionality into their apps, supporting natural multimodal conversations with low latency. And it appears to be doing that through using many of the features of advanced voice mode, which we all got access to this past week. So this basically simplifies the process of managing speech interactions by combining multiple steps into a single API call. Now, third, OpenAI introduced vision fine-tuning for GPT-4o. This allows developers to fine-tune the model using both images and text, which opens up tons more possibilities for applications in visual search, object detection, medical image analysis, etc. Fourth, the company unveiled prompt caching, which is a feature that helps developers reduce costs and processing times when using repeated inputs across multiple API calls. This offers a 50% discount on reused input tokens, which optimizes expenses, improves latency for applications that have repetitive interactions. Last but not least, OpenAI announced model distillation, which is a new offering that allows developers to fine-tune smaller, cost-efficient models using outputs from larger, more capable models. This basically streamlines the process of improving smaller models with real-world data, making it easier to deploy powerful AI capabilities at a lower cost. So that's a lot to unpack here, but Paul, let's first talk about Canvas. This basically seems like an answer to some of the functionality that Claude has, like projects and or artifacts, where it kind of shows up and pairs with you as you're building an app, writing code, writing complex language. You also talked offline with me a bit, though, about other possible businesses and use cases that Canvas kind of challenges. Could you walk us through your thoughts there?
Yeah, so Canvas was split off as an announcement. So most of the stuff, Mike, you were outlining came from their Dev Day. Was October 2nd, I think, was the Dev
Yeah.
Day. And so for our listeners who aren't developers, some of that may be like, okay, yeah, so what? The so what is developers are going to build a lot of cool stuff. Like in essence,
Right.
what it means is OpenAI is making their capabilities, their models, available by these open APIs, including some variation of advanced voice, that's going to allow developers to accelerate innovation very affordably and start building more and more tools and applications that the non-developer crowd like us can enjoy and benefit from. So that's kind of like the key takeaway from the dev. So Canvas comes out, I think this was October 3rd. I think it was yesterday or something, or in the last 2 days this came out. And it's one of those initially you're like, oh, this seems like a big deal.
Mm.
Let me go kind of play around with this a little bit. So I did have a chance to do it because everyone should have it. So if you're a paid user, I think it's Plus and Enterprise or Team, everybody now has access. And you can just go in and choose ChatGPT 4o with Canvas. It's actually one of the models in the dropdown. So they position it as an early beta, introduces a new way of working together, not just through conversation, but by creating and refining ideas side by side. My first reaction when I saw it was, oh, this is like just their copy of Anthropic's project.
Yeah.
That doesn't actually seem true. I think the user interface that is true for, but it seems like it's doing a lot of interesting things that I don't think Anthropic's currently does. Now, I'm not the biggest user of Claude and projects, so I can't say that confidently. Um, but in my early testing, it definitely starts blurring into a true writing assistant
Mhm.
because so like the example I gave, let's just to play around. I just went in, chose the drop down. I said, write an abstract for an AI presentation. And then it does its usual thing, like, sure thing, here you go. Before I give it anything else, it just writes it. And it's like, okay, that was jumping the gun a little bit. Like I wasn't really like, I didn't tell you anything else about it. It just gave me one. And so then I just started kind of playing around with it. So now what happens is your chat, rather than just being down the center, moves to the left. And now 3/4 of your screen is the canvas. And now your document is kind of holding off to the right there. So I said, let's use bullets to make it easy to read. So it immediately kind of rewrites it and then it gives you the edited form of that. And I was like, make it more fun. Don't use the word delve ever because it had the delve in there. Um, and so it started doing it. And then I was just playing with it. I was like, okay, can you write this more in the style of Paul Roetzer? And I was like, I wonder if it'll do this. So it revised it. It's like, I revised the text to align more closely with Paul Roetzer's style, making it more engaging and focused on transformative power of AI. And so I said, do you know who Paul Roetzer is? Now I was like curious, is it actually doing this or is it just BSing me? And it said, yeah, he's the founder and CEO of Marketing Institute. He is well known for his work in making AI more accessible and applicable for marketing professionals. He's also an advocate for integrating AI into business strategies to drive growth, efficiency, and innovation. He often uses focus on simplifying AI concepts and making them actionable for business leaders, with an emphasis on practical use cases, responsible adoption, and ethical considerations. Like, damn, this is actually pretty good. His approach is characterized by a practical, optimistic view of AI's potential, while also ensuring transparency and responsible usage. I couldn't have written that.
No
well.
kidding.
So then I said, okay, what specific elements of what you just wrote in that draft are in my style? And then it actually explained in 5 bullet points the components of the writing that were like tied to my style. So you can see like the power of the underlying model that's able to do the things GPT-4 has always been able to do. But now you have these style buttons. So in the bottom right corner, you can click it. It's got suggest edits, adjust the length, reading level, add final polish, add emojis.
Yeah.
And what it does is it gives you like these cool sliding scales. So like the user interface is really slick how they did it. So when it pops up reading level, you just drag like this book up and down. I want a high school PhD level. I want like grit. So it's pretty cool. When I step back for a moment after kind of testing it myself, the thing I realized is like, they're still not ready for this. Like most companies we meet with, most schools I talk to
Yeah.
aren't teaching how to use ChatGPT at all. And now all of a sudden we have this whole true writing assistant. And I'm not going to get into the coding because Mike and I aren't coders.
Yeah.
I couldn't really tell you how good the coding part is. But as a writer, as someone who came out of journalism school, as you know, Mike and I spent our lives writing, this is really impressive. And I don't know if I've talked about this on the show, but I've been teaching my daughter, who's 12, how to use ChatGPT to become a more creative writer. And so I went to school to become the kind of writer I am today. I spent years trying to become a really good creative writer.
Right.
And what I have found is, because she likes to develop story ideas and things like that, what I have found is I'm able to teach her how to be a creative writer way, way faster. And what I'm doing is having her go in and say, okay, let's have ChatGPT write the first paragraph of this idea. Now I want you to write it in the style that you learned by how it used different words, how it create these visualizations. Like, you know how when it wrote that first paragraph, you could see what it was saying.
Yeah.
I want you to now write the next paragraph in that same way. And so rather than me trying to figure out how to teach her to be a writer, because I've never been an instructor. Like I don't know how to actually teach her that way, but I am able to explain to her how to use the tool to learn that way. And I really find myself with tools like Canvas. So again, I'll kind of leave it at go try it. It is really impressive. My early work with it is fascinating. I do think it starts to creep into tools like Grammarly and things like that. You do start to wonder the competitive environment as you see what these things are, knowing this is a beta, but they're obviously coming for writing. But my bigger thing becomes how are we going to use these tools in schools and in businesses to accelerate people's capabilities in learning and not have it become a crutch to critical thinking. And I don't know the answer to this, but every time I go do a talk, I get asked these questions. Like, how are we going to teach the next generation to do things when they can just have ChatGPT do it? And every day, these tools get smarter and they have more and more capabilities to where if you want to take the shortcut, it is there to be taken. And I don't know. So that's kind of my overall thoughts, Mike. It's an impressive user interface. It's a really cool tool. It creates more questions in my mind about how people do work in the future where they don't just let the AI do it for them.
Yeah, and it's interesting with the previous topic that something like a company like Glean is being mentioned as a big competitor. This compared with that, this certainly feels like, okay, we're trying to get into enterprise productivity essentially in a more
No
formal
doubt.
way than ChatGPT Enterprise.
I
Like,
mean, honestly, like I even had the thought about what about Microsoft? Like
right.
Microsoft Word, Google Docs. Like there was the first time where I wondered, is OpenAI going to build like a productivity platform?
Yeah.
Like, are they going to just build their own version of Excel and Docs? And it sure seems like they could be going that direction, which is a really fascinating thing I hadn't really thought about before. But I would certainly understand why Microsoft, a few episodes ago, Mike, I think you called out Microsoft was now listing OpenAI as a
Right.
competitor in
Right.
like their public filings.
Yeah.
It starts to make a lot more sense when you think that maybe they are going to go at that enterprise productivity market, not just through a ChatGPT interface, but different interfaces.
Yeah, especially with all our talk of this research company becoming a product company, they have
Yeah.
to find revenue to
Hired a
justify
chief
this.
product officer.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're very much positioning themselves. I would be, oh man, I would give anything to see their pitch deck. I would love to know their roadmap of because they're what 11.6 billion in revenue next year,
Mhm.
and then I think it was in the 20s, 20 some billion the year after.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
would love to see the
Where is that
breakdown of where
coming
that's coming
from? And
from.
there, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.